Hey guys, what's up? This is Twisted Mind, and this is our raw cap footage of our first kill on Blade Lord Tayek in Heart of Fear. So I'm disciplined for this fight, however, on this fight I actually started the night going as holy because there's a couple things that both specs bring to the table, but I'll get to that after the full explanation of this thing. All right, so what your raid's going to be managing here is this is a really interesting room to be doing an encounter in. It's a really long hallway, and the ceiling is kind of low. So if you're used to like bird's eye view, there's a lot of like things to get caught on because of just the artwork in this dungeon. Like there's a lot of pointy things that like screw with your camera. So it's a narrow hallway, but your view is probably a little bit more restricted if you adjust your viewpoints around. I don't know. It depends on how you play, but that's like something that I just noticed by observation when I was doing this. The macro of this fight, your raid wants to loosely spread out because he does this thing, like he'll be jumping on random raiders and he'll be slashing them with this ability called Wind Step, and it's on a perfect like timer, which you can see in your boss timers. But what it does is it debuffs the person and puts this pretty nasty bleed on them. It's nasty enough that you want to be using some pretty heavy heals on them. So if you see here, I try to get power word shields up on the people who have to bleed. The other irritating thing he's doing here is like, yeah, he'll be jumping around the room doing this, but he'll also be summoning these little tornadoes. The tornadoes, you can see the pattern they're going in. They just go in small little circles and they just slowly overwhelm that area if raiders stand there for too long. So you want to constantly be repositioning the raid, or in this case, moving him down the hallway is what we're doing. Now, you spreading out and just like taking and spanking would be too easy, so there's this other ability he does called Unseen Strike. Unseen Strike is what it's called. I had to Google that. It's really interesting because you want to be spread out, right? To avoid getting like debuffed on multiple targets, but you want to be pretty close because this random Unseen Strike goes on a person. You don't have a whole lot of room to dick around to stack back up, and then the damage that person takes is about to get waylaid by his sword. If you're all stacked on top of them, the damage is split between everybody. So you can see here that we're collapsing and then spreading out, collapsing and spreading out to work around that. Now obviously this ability screams Disciplined Priest because like not only can it's like really predictable, you can absorb it, it's also on a 1 minute cooldown. So theoretically, Spirit Shell should be up for every single one of these, and you should be padding the meters and looking good, whatever. However, in this particular kill, I used my Spirit Shell too late for the first one of these, and since it's a minute cooldown, perpetually I am off on like every single one. And then you can always just say, well, you should just rapture trick, like bubble spam everybody, but there's some other things going on here. The tanks are dealing with this ability called Overwhelming Assault, and what it does is it just does this crazy amount of damage to them, and it's like brings them up to either really, really low health and they still have aggro, the other tank's supposed to taunt, but there's that quick little microseconds where they might get gibbed or something. Power word shield is really good for making sure they don't die there, and also if you can predict that strike, you can get a shield on them. So that's going to mess with your rapture timings. But the people who are getting that nasty dot, they're going to take some heals, and I felt it was better to just pump them full of power word shields and proc rapture on them or whatever, because they do need the healing, and anything you could do to like put a hang time on them is good. Because like if you can see my frames here, they do need like pretty much constant attention, and if someone isn't spread out far enough and it does get on two people, they're really going to need your attention. So rapture tricking here, I mean, I guess you could try doing it, but I don't think it's going to be as effective. Like it's not an effective strategy for your raid, and this is my opinion. And Spirit Shell, it's on a minute cooldown. You should be able to get that up for every one of these predictable damages. It also works well for like hang timing the people who have these dots, or the tanks that are like taking this massive strike every now and so often. Okay, so Discipline looks really good on this particular phase, but you go below 20% and he does this really interesting thing. He puts us all in tornadoes, and then we get sent to the side of the room, and then he creates this maze of tornadoes we have to traverse to get to the other side of the room. And this can get really nasty because in this particular fight, there's an ongoing debuff he is putting on himself. It's called Intensify, which is increasing his damage done. It's also increasing his haste. So it's a soft and rage type mechanic. So this phase, you do want to execute him really quickly because there's a lot of movement and there's a lot of hecticness going on. but the quicker you can get to this phase, the less overall damage you're going to be taking. So you kind of want to like burst all of your DPS up front or try to get through the first phase as fast as humanly possible. So it's going to depend on your comp, like when to use Harrow, how many healers you're going to take. For this video, our strategies, we took 2 healers, but in this phase, and this is the reason I was holy at the start of the night, as you can see, we're running through these tornadoes, and I'm swearing and getting really angry because I keep getting caught in the tornado like a noob. You need to be doing heals on the run, because during this tornado portion, there's a significant amount of raid damage going out on your players, and you know, classes that can heal on the move are going to look pretty stellar here, but we're 2 healing this with me and a Resto Shaman, so we're trying to keep people up. We found it best to actually have a lot of our hybrid healers help out with healing as we're running down that hallway there, and then I was able to like go to Discipline, which can't really do as much healing on the move as Holy. Like, you know, how I was handling in Holy is I was in Serenity, and I was gaming Cascade, like jumping on people who had Renew, and you know, Circle of Healing is really great here, but Discipline does okay. If you glyph Penance, you have that ability but to instant cast, but it will turn your character, and you really need full control over your movement here. As you can see, like the windows of space I have to operate in between these tornadoes is very narrow. And then there's a really good example coming up here at the end of the fight, where when you get to the end of the hallway where the tornadoes are actually spawning, it's really difficult to get through that window. It takes like a degree of luck, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Is because like when you get down there at this point in the fight, the tornadoes are spawning so fast that I basically have to like get through this end without a tornado spawning on me. And as you can see here, even with a speed boost, lag somehow pulls me back into it, and I'm like way screwed. My raid is dying. There's nothing I can do to help, and we're really cutting it close here. The reason we were able to down this is because our hybrids were, like all the people who do have hybrid healing, were sitting at the end if they made it, and we're like helping out to stabilize the raid. We're doing heavy raid cooldowns, and then we had some pretty tricky defense cooldowns going at the end. The people who are alive are the ones that were using those tricky defense cooldowns. So it gets close, but overall this shouldn't take you as long as the first fight to complete.